Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Dr. Phil Finemore here with you, as always, back with another episode, and have a guest on this week. Really excited about that. This is actually going to be, I believe, I hope I don't say this and then in a couple of weeks you find out I'm lying to you, but I hope I'm not lying to you out there, podcast listeners. I think this is going to be the last guest of 2023, so that's very exciting. And we're bringing it home here with a guest that I am really excited to talk to. Joining me on the podcast this week is Tiana Lane, who is an integrative nutrition health coach and founder of Healthy Fit by Tiana. She's got a really interesting story that got her into this field, a real personal experience. And you all know, as listeners to this podcast, how I love that. I love the story of how someone became passionate about what they do and how they help people. So I really can't wait to talk to her about that. And she coaches her clients on how to balance blood sugar for sustainable weight and fat loss, develop healthy routines, and swap for better quality ingredients. Can't wait to talk to her about that as well. And uses all that to boost overall wellness and help her clients feel their best. Tiana, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
Great. Happy to have you on. And as I alluded to, I'm really excited to hear a little bit about your story. Definitely want to know how you approach helping people with your expertise. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a health coach.
Sure. So I actually grew up in a very healthy household. My dad, my mom were super into health. Even when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad was very adamant on living a healthy lifestyle. So, we weren't allowed any sugar growing up, very organic, everything. We only shopped at a small organic food store, I think pretty much my whole life. I don't think I went to Stop and Shop until I was about 18. So yeah, I started with them with all of that. They were super into fitness and just very, very disciplined and consistent living that way. And also for me and my brother. And I remember even, back in the 80s, 90s, it wasn't as popular. Like now you can find blue corn chips and different kind of cookie things like that, where back then it was weird kind of to have those foods and no one wanted to trade lunch with me and, all different things. But,
sure.
That's kind of how I grew up. And I, for a couple of years, during college in my 20s, I kind of went off the path a little bit, but going into my late 20s, early 30s, I came back to living a healthier lifestyle, and I've been doing that ever since. And I have an undergrad in psychology and a master's in counseling, and I decided to take that into health coaching.
Yeah,
fantastic. And combine everything. So yeah. So, and I guess I should say, I also have a autoimmune bladder disorder that I got diagnosed with when I was 18. So even though, you grew up in a healthy home, healthy lifestyle, there are autoimmune disorders that run in my family. And when I, went off to college and wasn't living as healthy, it came out then. And I suffered for about 12 years, I think it was, on like maybe 3 pills a day, 3 to 4 pills a day sometimes, just always at the doctors, sometimes even the hospitals, just a constant, I don't want to say suffering, but, I was really in a bad spot for 12 years. And so eventually, when I think I was about 29, 30, I kind of started switching my lifestyle. And even my doctor said, let's try some natural approaches. And I've been in remission for 10 years and I don't take any medicine. I haven't actually seen my urologist probably about 8 years. And I just, just keep trying to manage it. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that is I think it's a testament to doctors more modern day starting to come around to, like, we don't just have to throw a pill at everything.
Right.
The research is there. The medicine is coming around a little bit, but this is not the first time we've talked to someone on the podcast here who has a personal experience with something that is classified under the autoimmune area. And it can be hard, as you know, with these things, to determine what exactly triggers it. Sometimes there is a trigger, sometimes there isn't. But the overall theme that I've learned and that we've heard here on the podcast before is that whether people veer away from an old lifestyle or get off the wagon, so to speak, or whether that was their lifestyle and it wasn't until they made those changes,
Right.
those natural approaches, that they actually saw not just a noticeable difference, but a very sustainable one.
Exactly.
That's a very, very common thing. And sometimes I know nobody wants to wish that they had like an autoimmune disorder to deal with, but I'm really interested to hear your take on this because of your background in psychology and counseling. I would venture a guess that if people saw a massive change in what seems like a pretty short amount of time with something like what you did when you made those changes, it'd probably be a little easier for people to make those changes on a sustainable level, right?
Exactly. And I think, I mean, even without an autoimmune, I coached somebody that had, some IBS, and she had higher cholesterol and blood pressure, and she noticed a change with IBS overnight. I changed her breakfast. I helped her switch her breakfast, and she was like, I felt different the next day. I mean, I don't think sometimes people understand how they're so used to living like that, and so used to their nutrition being that, well, I can't say, their food being a certain way and not exercising, that when they finally start to do it, even if you don't have an autoimmune, you finally see how good you actually can feel. And then when you say, not that you come off of it, but say you have a night where, okay, you're going to go out and eat whatever and do whatever, you actually feel it even more the next day, because you can feel it more now because you're not used to it every single day and taking pills for this and medicine for this, and just, so I think people, they need to just give it a chance, no matter what, diagnosed or not.
Absolutely. Do you think that people notice that change, almost that reverse change you just talked about, where I've been good for 2 or 3 weeks, let's say I really am on a roll here, feel good about it, but don't really, they might not say they notice much day-to-day change at that point, but then they have a day where they eat the thing they're not supposed to eat anymore, or not that they're not supposed to eat, but eat something or drink something or some combination that they haven't been doing for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the next day they're like, ugh, woof, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I bet early on, is it your experience that overall experience is more noticeable for people in the short term than some of the more overt, like day-to-day changes that
I
people
think,
notice?
yes, I definitely think so. I definitely think so. And I've heard of that from a few of my clients. I mean, almost within the first week or two. I mean, even weight loss. I've had a client that noticed a couple pounds. I mean, and also so much goes into just weight loss, all different things. But she even noticed that after the first week and a half, and she was doing well and had gone out for a weekend and noticed how she felt the next day. And it was different, because she started feeling so good. So yeah, I think people notice it, but I think it's hard because what I say to clients is that it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to really implement the habits. And sometimes people, they think that changing your lifestyle is just cutting so many things out. And it's not that. It's actually incorporating more whole foods, healthy foods, fueling your body, incorporating the exercise, and just, they don't give that a chance. They think it's just I'm going to be some restrictive, like crazy person. You're on chicken and vegetables for the rest of your life type of thing. And they're not willing to give the 2 to 3 weeks a chance, So I think that's kind of the issue too, where I get it with some people.
Yeah.
So
I really like the way you started what you were just saying there, where you said, it's not removing things, it's just fueling your body the right way. And I have to wonder, for someone like yourself, obviously you're educated on the topics of the health and wellness and nutrition that you're helping guide people through, but with your background in psychology and counseling, would you say that teaching people those tricks to improve their mindset was probably the number one thing you brought over from your psychology into health coaching, or just one of the top things? Like where do you kind of rate that?
So mindset's number one for me. That's usually what I start with, because if they don't have the mindset to change, and the thing is that it is, it is effort and work, I can't really say work, because once you start going with it, you actually enjoy how you feel, and that motivates you to keep going. So mindset's number one, because a lot of societies used to, counting calories, and that, salads are the only thing I can have. And so it's changing that, where you have to change them. And even trying to get people to eat more. They're so used to, less is better. It's, that was sometimes hard for me. They're like, you want me to eat more? I said, yeah, I do. Actually, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So just changing mindset and being consistent every single day with something, even if it's exercise, just implementing it, even if it's 10 minutes, it's just the mindset of getting the consistency, getting the motivation, which you find within yourself, because I can only do so much. I can guide the person. That's my job, is to guide the person. They have to do it for themselves in their own life. And obviously we celebrate everything, their wins and everything, but I can't be there making them, walk and do things. So it's really, they have to switch to that. And once they do, they see it immediately, pretty immediately. So
yeah. No,
yeah, so that's
absolutely.
everything.
It is. You're exactly. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think anyone that works in healthcare, especially in a realm of healthcare that's not as, I hate to throw out around the term not traditional, because I do think things like you do are starting to become more traditional. They've been around a while, and the science keeps getting better, and the techniques and the things that people in your line of work focus on are getting better and more refined all the time. But I really think that mindset maybe gets talked about like it's the end all be all, but if you don't have that going for you, it's going to be really tough to make those changes, because
exactly,
there's a reason why you've been doing the things the way you've been doing them, that's kind of gotten yourself in that situation. And a lot of it is just deep rooted habits, and the way you think about those deep rooted habits, I think.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
It's everything. So
yeah. No, that's great. Talk a little bit about, maybe one of your sort of favorite go-tos that really helps people, uh, start to trigger that mindset change and think a little bit more positively about some of these changes. Because maybe people out there listening to this episode are saying, I just mentioned that mindset gets talked about a ton nowadays. It's almost like the new buzzword in
yeah.
alternative healthcare and wellness practices. But it is important, and we know that it's important. So is there like a sort of like a go-to technique you have, or one that you really like to use with people, or is it like it really has to be an individualized thing in order for it to work?
It's kind of more individual, because everyone's so different. I've had some people that have been kind of working at the same things for a while, and people that kind of change overnight, like I said. And I think the mindset, being open-minded, and willing to try things and different things and things that I recommend is a big deal. Because if people aren't willing to do it, then they don't know what it can do for them, and I've had people say, let's try that. I've tried something and that doesn't work for them, so we go back to something else. So I mean, I don't have like a specific, people ask me if I have a meal plan, and it's not really, I don't have a specific go-to like meal plan for them, because every single person is different. I'm a health coach. I don't love chicken. People think that that's all I eat. I don't love it. So it's all different for everybody. And I think also when it comes to mindset, I really try and help them see the consistency of doing something, because even if they have to, with exercise, say, and they really want to get into an exercise routine, they just, no matter what I say, you have to do this, or try to do this every single day for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and really give it a chance. Even if just find the time. I mean, maybe if you have a day off, fine, but for the next like 3 weeks, you need to do this and be consistent. I think once they start realizing the consistency of their actions and behaviors, and they realize that, okay, oh, I can do this. And, you know, in a month I can add on another 10 minutes. So I really talk about consistency with them kind of first, foremost, and also just helping them see, like, another thing I do too is helping them actually understand how nutrition works in the body, how fueling your body is more important, because so many people are into the fad diets and counting calories and restrictions. And that is number one thing on their mind for the most part, you know?
Yeah.
So I have to kind of like talk to them about how, you know, that's not really going to help them, because I even said to somebody, you know, that's a quick fix and you can lose all the weight you want, but you might not feel good, you know? So just kind of, but I'd say the consistency and just kind of the explaining to them how things fuel their body, and instead of taking away, adding to fuel.
Yeah.
Are kind of the first two things. Yeah. If that,
absolutely.
I explained that well.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I mean, two things come to mind there. We'll chat about both of them here. I think, because I think they're both important. Number one, the consistency is important for some obvious reasons, because that's just how you build new habits. But to me, it also sounds like you're really focusing on something simple, right? Like,
yes,
consistency with something simple, like trying not to convolute it or make it too confusing or throw too many layers on it at once. How important is it to keep those first steps that you're trying to have them stay consistent with be incredibly simple?
Very, extremely important. I mean, that is another thing I was going to add. I make the goals each time very small, because if I went in and said, all right, let's do this, they're like, whoa, you know, because changing your lifestyle, you're so used to one way, and you don't, you know, understand that you could feel better by doing it this way necessarily, what works for you. It scares them, you know? So I even start with, like, if we're going with nutrition first, I start with breakfast pretty much. Let's change the breakfast, because I've had people say to me, I, you know, crave at night. And I said, well, what's your breakfast? Cereal. Okay. Well, that's a huge reason why we change the breakfast, and then it kind of helps them at night. So I work very small, because the smaller goals each day lead to the bigger goals and lead to them achieving eventually their lifestyle, their life-changing goals. So it's super important. Even with exercise, like I said, you know, start with 10 minutes, you know, if it needs to be for the next couple of weeks, then we add on, you know, 10 more minutes. If you want to go to a gym class, maybe call the gym to go one time next week, and let's start there. I actually just did that with somebody that wanted to go back to Zumba class. So, you know, it's all small to get there. So
absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And the other thing there that you mentioned, that's a big focus out of the gate with all your clients, albeit a individualized program for each of them, is truly getting them to understand why these concepts are going to be beneficial for them. Like you said, fueling your body the right way, which might mean, oh, you were trying to take in 15 to 2,000 calories, for example, but you really need like 2,500 in order to, you know, whatever the case might be. That level of understanding matters a ton, I think. And I really want to hear your take on this, especially I keep going back to your psychology background, but I think it's incredibly important as to why you sort of attack this stuff the way that you do, as you help people, because as it should. I mean, it's not all in your head. So, but
no.
but it's in your head, you know, like the things that these problems aren't in people's heads, but we need to attack things from the head down to make these changes, I think. So that level of understanding really is important, because without understanding what's going on when you make the change, the why you need to make the change is obvious. Like, you don't like the way you look, your clothes don't fit, or you know, the list goes on and on and on. But without truly understanding why you're doing what you're trying to do, we're just more likely to default back into the same old way we've always done everything, right? Because that's just because it's just easier, right?
Right. Right. And that's a lot of reason why people fall off their calorie counting and all of those things, because they realize, I mean, that's not sustainable, and they're not going to necessarily feel great. I mean, you can, like I said before, you can lose all the weight you want quickly, and that doesn't mean you feel good. And that it's not going to stay off for that long, because once you come off the plan, and then you also feel like you're always living on a plan, it all can come back and then some, and you're still not feeling great. So I explain to people a lot how, there's a lot of pairing foods, balanced meals, no restrictions. And by that, I don't mean like go to Panera Bread for every single meal, or like have, 10 cookies every single night. That's not what I mean by no restriction. I just mean you're not counting the calories. You're not just setting, oh, I'm having salad for lunch every single day, and that is it that's why resolutions don't work, because January 1st, I am having salad for lunch, dinner every single day till February. And then immediately, the second you cut out something in your mind that you can't have a cookie or chocolate or whatever it is, you want that, and you want it more than just one piece.
Yeah.
So what I do go over with clients is balancing blood sugar. And that's not necessarily just for people with diabetes. It's for sustaining you throughout the whole day, cutting cravings, sustainable weight, fat loss, just feeling good, just instead of getting rid of things, adding in more nutritious and whole foods. And sometimes when you start to add in more, it crowds out the things that weren't making you feel so good, because you start to realize, oh, okay, like, this is making me feel good, this avocado over the cookie and whatever else for snack, you know what I mean? So yeah, I work on helping them understand how that works. And then, when you talk about, I know people talk about the calorie deficit, eat less, but when you're sustaining your blood sugar throughout the day, you're not naturally overeating. So you're putting yourself in a little bit of a deficit naturally, but it's not in a restrictive calorie reduction way. It's just natural, and you're hopefully learn to mindfully eat. I teach them how to mindfully eat. So, if you're having a protein shake in the morning, let's drink that over the half an hour on the way to work. And then you're not craving things in the, in between snack and between breakfast and lunch. And so I kind of try and teach them how everything works in your body together, pairing the fat, fiber, and protein to slow the digestion and keep you on a level. Because when you are spiking and crashing, that's when you're craving and eating and craving sugar, craving the sweets, craving the chips.
Right.
Because your body wants the energy really quickly again. So, yeah, so that's another thing that I teach them pretty early on, because I know the calorie restrictions and the diets and all of that are, have probably been tried more than once.
Yeah.
So.
Tried and failed and tried and failed and tried.
Yes. And that's why it doesn't last. Yeah.
Exactly. Another great thing you just brought up there, you mentioned it kind of a couple times in a couple of different ways, but the overall idea of being more mindful, not just mindfully eating while you're eating, but being in tune with how your body feels when you eat certain things, which is new for people. Would you say that's harder than having them eat more calories or try to eat more of this stuff than a little less of this stuff? Or is it a pretty level playing field, but it's still a very important aspect of what you're helping people work through?
I think being mindful of what you're eating is super important, because I've had a client that, avocado bothered her. So it doesn't, just because it's, it's supposed to be good for you, doesn't mean that it doesn't bother you. I mean, some people can, eat more vegetables. Some people can't. Some broccoli bothers some people. So I think, incorporating the wholer foods is a good idea, but you want to incorporate the foods that make you feel good yourself, not because it makes this person feel good, so I should be eating that also.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think being mindful of what works for your body, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you think that's harder for some people than like the overall changes you're asking them to make with their exercise and their eating habits? Or not that you're asking them to make, but that you're helping them to make, is teaching them to be mindful about that stuff harder sometimes than making those changes?
Sometimes, because I think that they're going in it expecting just a strict plan. And, I think so. Yeah. Again, we go back to the mindset of being mindful of doing anything and having that mindset to really pay attention to what's going on and, how anything's affecting you, especially when people haven't been feeling well from what they've been doing in the past. So yeah, I think so because they, like I said, they're just so used to being on a diet, and they look at what this person's eating and that person's eating, and this person lost weight on that, but it doesn't mean that it's going to make you feel great either. So they definitely come in like that a little bit more, and I have to kind of retrain them to think, this might not work for you.
Right.
Just because, because it's good for you. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're almost working with them through that mindful eating to develop more of their plan. Like, as a professional, roughly what this person's going to need based on what their profile looks like, and maybe what their labs look like, and what their goals are, and all that good stuff. But fine tune it. You kind of need them to do that mindful eating by the sounds of it.
Right. Yes, exactly. And I actually had trouble with that initially too. I'm just sorry, I just need a drink.
No, yeah, by all means.
I had a little cold last week, so but yeah, the mindful eating, I had trouble with that initially too. And when I was in my health coaching program, they stressed that a lot. And I started doing that more because I would just kind of eat, I ate obviously good stuff, but I would just kind of at my lunch break just swallow it, and felt hungry a little bit after. So mindful eating actually helps with that too. It helps with, keeping you fuller longer. You recognize that you feel full instead of just like you're not starving an hour later. So you get to recognize the fullness, and that also helps with the cravings and all of that. So, and it just, you shouldn't be swallowing your food.
Yeah.
You should take the time to eat. So
take the time to eat. Yeah. Exactly. Things taste the way they taste for a reason, right? Like, I think that's all of that from the time it hits your lips until the time it makes its way into your gut. You're really supposed to know what you're doing, right?
Exactly. You want to taste the food. Yeah. And I realized that too. And once I got that, I was like, wow, this really is so different.
It really is. Well, and thinking about that, it seems pretty simple to say like, well, obviously things taste the way they taste, duh. But the follow-up question to that is like, why? Some things might not taste good because we're not supposed to put them in our body, right? That's obvious. Like,
right.
But I think a deeper, more scientific answer to that is things taste the way they taste because we're probably supposed to take the time to actually taste them.
Right. Exactly.
Not because if the object was just to get them into our stomach as quickly as they could, why would we need to taste it? Like,
exactly.
Just like inject something down there and call it a day.
Right. Yeah. People are always in a rush here to do everything. So they're just, even eating on the way in their car and eating on meetings and eating, and I've been guilty of that too, obviously, but that's not really the way we're supposed to be doing it. But unfortunately it is. So training, helping them realize that as well is a big part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're never going to be perfect, but I think in situations like what we're talking about here, where you're making a change, really making a big lifestyle change in some major areas of your life, there probably just needs to be a little bit more emphasis and effort on the most impactful things that are going to facilitate that change, not just now, but make them sustainable. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And effort. I like how you said that, because there's effort that goes into this. This is not an overnight type of thing. I mean, it's like I said before, it's in the beginning, at least it's work. And then as you go, these habits and learning how to eat mindfully and learning their foods and, getting that exercise all just become a part of your life and your day. And it gets to a point where when you don't do it, it's strange, and even the thing is too, is that I even tell my clients that once you start going with it and you get to a point where you've been doing it for a while, even if you take a day off in recovery and all of that, resting is hugely important too. You can get back into it. It's not, oh, I'm doing this hard for 3 weeks and now I'm off again. You can take a day off and it doesn't throw you off. You can go out to dinner and have whatever. It doesn't throw you off, And that's the part where I wish that people could see, because once they get to that point, it becomes easier for them, and it just is your life. It's not a plan or a program or difficult to get up and exercise, you know what I mean? Anything like that. So
yeah. The hard work now is just going to make things that much easier down the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. No, fantastic. No, this has been great, Tiana. This is
thank you.
really good information. I've got
Thank you so much.
I've got two more questions for you, but before we do those, I just want you to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you, learn a little bit more about your practice, and get in contact with you if they have specific questions or want to work with you.
Sure. So I do have a website. It's www.tianalane.com. I also have an Instagram. It's at healthyfitbytiana. And my email is healthyfitbytiana@gmail.com. So they can get in touch with me any of those ways. I have links to everything back to my email. There's an application. Even if they go on my Instagram, they can click on my application, and I have a program video, and it's all on my website. So, and I can even get DMs if they want to DM me on Instagram or email me, all of those ways. So
fantastic. Great. Yeah. And we will make sure we have those right in the show notes for everybody. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Tiana and her practice, you can access those quickly. So last two questions here. I like to ask all of the guests these questions. So there's not a trick question. There's no wrong answers here, but don't get nervous. This isn't a pop quiz. The first question is, what is your definition of strength?
Mentally,
physically, however you would describe, however you would define strength.
I think, I don't want to word this. Pushing yourself to the limit that putting the effort in and pushing yourself, to the limit of doing what you need to do to have what you want in your life. I think I love, I think of discipline when you ask me that too, because one of my favorite quotes is, discipline is the difference between what I want now and what I want most. And I think having the strength to go for, is going for what you want the most, over what feels comfortable and what you want right now.
Yeah. Get a little uncomfortable to get comfortable again. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
I would say that. Yeah.
No, that's great. I like it. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then the last question I have for you, Tiana, is what is your true purpose in life?
My true purpose. Well, when it comes to health, health coaching and coaching people, helping them see that they can live the life that they want and feel the best that they can. I think it can happen for anybody. I mean, I know, obviously there are some times that, they need a little bit more with medicine and obviously treatments and things like that. But I always say, even if you have something, you can manage yourself, manage your symptoms, and have the best quality of life that you can, no matter what. Obviously to be a great mom. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I want her to see that even if she has children someday, or I'm married too, so obviously to be a great wife and a dog mom. Yeah. I always want her to see that even if she, is married someday and has children, that she can still do what makes her happy and have her life, and even own a business if she wants, and work hard for everything and still be a great mom and a great wife at the same time.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, great. Well, thank you for living out your true purpose in all of those ways. Everyone else that gets to experience that is going to highly benefit from it. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Phil. This was awesome. I loved it.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Come on anytime. You're welcome to come on anytime and talk.
Oh, definitely.
If you'd like to talk to. We can definitely take a deeper dive on some of these topics the next time.
Yeah.
Be on the podcast for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, too, for listening.
You're very welcome. Yes. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening. Really appreciate it. All of Tiana's contact info is in the show notes, as is mine. Don't be afraid to reach out to us with any questions that you might have. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you back here next time on the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Bye now.